All right, today we're jumping into a really fascinating thought experiment, one that comes from our source material. Imagine an apocryphal version of Nietzsche's famous work, The Gay Science. But don't picture a finished book. Think of it more like a collection of raw, fiery, prophetic notes for a totally new kind of sacred text.
Okay, this first quote really just lays it all out on the table, doesn't it? It's not just a philosophical idea. It's delivered like a prophecy. And right away, it yanks heaven out of some far-off, otherworldly place and slams it right down inside the human will. That single idea is the engine for everything we're about to explore. So what is this apocryphal gay science? Well, the sources describe it as a counter-gospel. It's a text that's designed to act like a new sacred book for the earth. It's a blueprint for a kind of spirituality that is completely, 100%, cut off from anything transcendent. Yeah, the entire mission here is to force a shift in our focus. The argument is that for centuries, we've put all our value in other worlds, heaven, nirvana, some realm of perfect ideas. This text wants to grab all of that meaning, all that sacredness, and drag it back down to earth, anchoring it right here in our messy, beautiful, lived experience. To do this, the text gives us a hero, Zarathustra, and he's framed pretty provocatively as an anti-Jesus. Think about it. Where Jesus brought truth from above, from a god, Zarathustra brings truth from within, from the human will. Where Jesus taught us to deny ourselves for a kingdom to come, Zarathustra teaches us to create ourselves and be true to this world right now. So, how do you build a new sacred text from scratch? Well, you pull off what the source calls a philosophical heist. You steal the most powerful tools from religion itself, the gravitas of prophecy, the authority of commandments, the gut punch of a good parable, and you use them for your own purposes. You're using the very language of an old faith to power a new one.
Now, maybe the most brilliant part of this whole heist is how it takes a cornerstone of Western culture, Dante's Divine Comedy, and just flips it completely on its head. It takes that famous spiritual journey and runs it in reverse. In this new map of the soul, what's the deepest, darkest hell? It's not a pit of fire for evildoers. No, it's a gray, lifeless void called the Great Indifference. And it's populated by the last men, people whose only goal in life is to be comfortable and safe. The ultimate sin here isn't doing evil, it's doing nothing. It's the failure to even try. And what about purgatory? Well, that gets a total makeover too. It's no longer about cleansing your soul to be worthy of God's love. In this version, it's a brutal intellectual climb. The free spirit has to get rid of all the old life-denying baggage, like the belief in absolute truths handed down from somewhere else, and what Nietzsche called slave morality, the values of the herd. The only guide you have is your own mind. And finally, you reach the new paradise. But there's no union with God waiting for you. Instead, heaven is a psychological state. It's the ecstasy of amor fati, the love of one's fate. It's that moment where you can look at your entire life, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, and say with your whole being, yes, I would live this exact life again and again forever. That feeling, that is heaven. And this table just lays it all out so clearly. On one side, you have Dante's journey up and away to God. And on the other, you have this new journey, inward to the self. Hell isn't about sin, it's about apathy. Purgatory isn't about grace, it's an intellectual purge. And paradise isn't about God, it's about saying yes to this life. Every single stage is completely re-engineered for an earthbound existence. This whole strategy of inversion, of using scripture as a weapon, it doesn't just stop with Dante. The text takes this idea and applies it directly to the language of the Bible, mimicking its style to deliver a message that is the polar opposite. I mean, just listen to that language. Verily I say unto you. It sounds like it could be a lost verse from the Bible, right? But the message is a complete reversal. It takes suffering, which is so often seen as a punishment from God, and reframes it as the raw material for growth. It's not a curse, it's an opportunity. The text even comes with its own anti-commandments, and the first one strikes right at the heart of traditional morality. It says the highest virtue isn't passive obedience, which so many belief systems are built on. No, the highest virtue is active creation. The second command is just as challenging. It tells us not to want a life of ease and quiet. It tells us to embrace struggle. That great war of the spirit isn't something to avoid. It's the very thing that forges us into who we are, the process that makes us stronger.
And then we get the final and most shocking commandment, a direct inversion of the golden rule. Thou shalt not love thy neighbor, but thy fate. This is where amor fati becomes the ultimate moral law. Your first and most important duty is to fall in love with a life that is uniquely yours, with all of its twists and turns. So who is the person that actually embodies this radical philosophy? Well, the text gives us Zarathustra. And he's not just a prophet who says these things. He is a living parable. His own personal journey is the lesson in action. Zarathustra's journey follows a very clear, symbolic path. First, he has to reject the passive, easy happiness of the masses. Then he has to look nihilism right in the eye. After that, he has to learn to overcome cynicism and heaviness. And finally, he reaches that ultimate state of life affirmation. And along the way, he has to fight all these symbolic enemies. There's his shadow, which is his own internal weakness, his temptation for an easier life. There's the soothsayer, the voice of pessimism telling him it's all pointless. There's the spirit of gravity, that cynical voice that wants to drag everything down. And even after God is dead, he still has to fight the shadow of God, all those leftover habits of old morality. But to become whole, Zarathustra has to achieve a kind of synthesis, and that's represented by his two animal companions, the eagle and the serpent. The eagle is all about that soaring pride, that ambition, but the serpent is about cunning, earthy wisdom. He has to combine both, the will to fly to the highest heights and the wisdom to navigate the world on the ground. So all of this leads us to the grand finale, the culmination of Zarathustra's journey and the ultimate goal of this entire philosophical project, what it actually means to find, or maybe to create, heaven right here on Earth. His journey hits its peak at a symbolic moment called the Great Midday. This is described as an hour of no shadow, a moment of perfect, blinding clarity. In this moment, he fully accepts his life, the idea of eternal recurrence, and he becomes a total yes-sayer. He's transformed from a philosopher into an artist, ready to share his light with the world. And at the very heart of that light, of that vision, is amor fati. The text calls it the new grace. But this isn't a gift given to you by a god. It's an achievement. It's the active, joyous, fierce acceptance of your fate, seeing every single thing that has ever happened to you as necessary, as good, as essential to making you who you are. And so that leaves us with one final, provocative question. It turns this whole philosophy right back on us. If the point is to reject old values and create new ones, well then if you were to write the sacred text for your own life, what would your first commandment be?